Thought my best friend was helping me plan my wedding until I found she'd been secretly texting my fiancé behind my back, telling him that I was emotionally unstable and that he deserved someone who could actually handle real commitment. I was 28 when I thought I was finally settling down. My name is Owen, and I'd been dating Claire for almost 4 years when I proposed to her. We met at a small art show in Portland, Oregon, where she was helping her cousin sell handmade jewelry. I remember how she laughed when I told her I couldn't distinguish between a ruby and a red glass bead from an inexpensive shop. She said to me, "At least you're honest," and that was it. We started going out a week later. I figured for most of those years that she was the one for me. Claire was smart, considerate, sometimes a little too sensitive, but she made life feel softer in some way. I was a web designer, doing most of my work from home, and she was an occupational therapist at a hospital downtown. We rented a small apartment near the park, and most evenings we cooked dinner together or watched TV until one of us fell asleep on the couch. Her best friend Mia was over a great deal, maybe too much now that I reflect on it. She was 30, single, and always seemed to be the kind of person who had to control other people's lives. When I proposed to Claire last December, Mia was the first person she called. I did not think much of it then. Friends celebrate, right? Mia helped plan the engagement dinner, took care of the decorations and guest list. Claire could not stop raving about how lucky she was to have her. I agreed. I had no reason to believe otherwise then. The first few weeks after the proposal were perfect. We were both glowing, talking venues, menus, colors, guest lists. It was all so surreal. Mia came over almost every evening, laptop out, saying she'd help with the wedding planner because she knew how stressful these things get. I noticed small things though. She would roll her eyes when Claire got choked up over small things like flowers or music, or she'd whisper to me that I needed to be patient with Claire because she's not very good at handling stress. I thought she was trying to be nice. Sometimes she'd stay late, and I'd catch her and Claire closeted in the kitchen, the two of them lapsing into silence the instant I came into the room. I chalked it up to wedding talk. Around that time, I started getting weird vibes from Claire. She'd become less vocal, less expressive, a little more withdrawn. When I'd questioned her about it, she'd told me she was tired. I'd taken her at her word. One night, 3 months or so prior to the wedding, Mia called me while Claire was out shopping. She said she had to talk to me about something important. I figured some issue with the wedding, but she said, "Owen, can we meet face to face? I believe there's something I need to tell you about Claire." I consented, though I will confess I was apprehensive. We went to a coffee shop. She was fidgety, kept fiddling with her phone. Then she said, "Claire's been having second thoughts. She's been saying things that don't sound right. I think she's scared to tell you." I froze. "What sort of things?" I inquired. She said, "Things about not being ready, about you being too intense. She feels like you're emotionally unstable at times, like you might be too attached." I just sat there looking at her. It didn't make sense. I said, "Did Claire say that?" And she nodded. "She's afraid you'll overreact if she says it herself." I didn't sleep that night. Claire came home cheerful, showing me a new invitation design she'd found. I looked at her and couldn't reconcile that smiling face with what Mia told me. For the next few days I watched her. Nothing felt off. But the seed was planted, and it started to grow. I began overanalyzing everything. If she texted someone and smiled, I wondered who it was. If she didn't say anything, I would be thinking that she was trying to figure out a way to break up with me. It was eating away at me. Mia texted me again after a week, saying she just wanted to check in. I told her I was fine. Then she texted me and said, "I'm sorry, but I think you deserve someone who's not always unsure of her feelings." That sentence seemed strange to me. It sounded more like an opinion and less like something that Claire would have written. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I noticed Claire's phone buzzing on the counter while she was taking a shower. The screen lit up with Mia's name. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something within me just snapped. I opened the message. It said, "Don't worry, I told him I was just checking in." He totally believed her. My chest was cold. I scrolled up. There were weeks of messages. Mia wasn't wedding planning with her. She was feeding Claire lies about me. She'd been telling Claire I was possessive, manipulative, emotionally unstable. Things like, "I don't think Owen's ready for marriage, and he's too intense, you deserve peace." But the worst were the things she did with my words. She'd take situations where I joked or complained and relayed them as though they were evidence of emotional problems. She'd even told Claire that I was seeing a therapist for anger issues, which was untrue. My stomach twisted. Claire emerged from the shower and saw my face. She knew that something was wrong. I handed her the phone without speaking. She just stood there reading for a few seconds. Then she fell onto the bed, covering her face. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed. I asked how long this had been going on. She did not know how to answer that. It was revealed that Mia had also been texting her fiancé. Claire showed me messages where Mia had told her she'd been trying to talk to me privately because she was worried about me. I felt sick. I couldn't believe anyone would do that, much less someone we trusted. Claire said, "She told me you said I was too needy." I said, "I never said that." She began to cry, realizing how much she'd believed. That night, Claire called Mia and confronted her on speaker. Mia did not deny anything. She just said, "I was trying to protect you, Claire. You can't see how toxic he is." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat and listened while Claire told her she never wanted to see her again. Mia hung up, and that was it. The next morning, I felt hollow. The one I thought was helping us came close to destroying us. Claire apologized over and over, saying she didn't know what to believe anymore. I told her I needed time. I meant it. This happened 3 weeks ago. We haven't said much since then. I don't know what is going to happen next, but I do know one thing. Trust doesn't die with one blow. It festers slowly until it collapses, and I don't know if ours can be rebuilt. The days that followed the fight were some of the quietest of my life. Claire and I were in the same apartment, but it was like we were two people just coexisting in a home that used to be ours. She'd sleep with her back to me. I'd get up early and sit on the balcony just to breathe air that did not feel dense. Every noise in the apartment served as a reminder of what had occurred. The ringtone that once made her smile now made her jump. I attempted to occupy myself with work, but my thoughts kept wandering. I kept wondering how I did not notice. How could I not have noticed that Mia was overstepping boundaries? I replayed every conversation I had with her, every harmless comment, every joke she'd made at my expense. It was like reliving my own stupidity on repeat. One night, about a week after we found the messages, Claire came out of the bedroom while I was at my desk. She said, "Owen, can we talk?" Her voice was small, like she was afraid I'd say no. I nodded. She sat on the couch, twisting her hands. "I know what she did was awful," she said, "but I also know I trusted her. That's my fault. I should have come to you." I told her I did, though half of me didn't. She said, "I wish to make this right, but I don't know where to begin." I said, "Begin with the truth. Tell me what she said about me." Claire sighed. "She said you become controlling when you don't get your way, that you watch who I speak to, that you have mood swings." She glanced down. I didn't think so at first, but then when we argued about the budget, she said that's how it starts. I guess I got scared. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Did you really think I'd hurt you?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, not physically. But she made it sound like you'd try to trap me." I didn't know what to say to that. I was both hurt and insulted at once. Claire reached for my hand, and for a second, I let her. Then I pulled it away. "I need space," I whispered. She nodded. That night, I tossed some things into a bag and went to stay at my brother's house on the other side of town. My brother Liam was 34, married, and had a 3-year-old daughter who believed I hung the moon. When I showed up with a duffel bag, he didn't ask any questions. He said just, "Spare room's yours." Later that night, after his wife had gone to bed, I told him the whole story. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "You're too forgiving, man. If anyone ever pulled that crap on me, I'd cut them both loose." I said, "It's not that simple." He shrugged. "Sure it is. You got betrayed twice. Once by her friend, once by her doubt." I didn't argue. I couldn't. In an old way, he was right. I stayed there for the next few days, trying to get my head clear. I went running every morning, cooked with my sister-in-law, played with their kid, anything to not have silence. Claire texted me every day, short ones apologizing or telling me that she missed me. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But I read every one of them. After about a week, Liam said to me, "You need to talk to her. You're not going to get closure sitting here drinking coffee and staring at my lawn." So I went back. When I arrived at the apartment, Claire was on the couch surrounded by wedding stuff, guest lists, sample cards, a torn magazine. She hadn't slept in days, it seemed. She stood up quickly. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said. I said, "I didn't think I would either." We sat. There was a pause. Then she said, "I called Mia's mom." I looked at her. "Why?" She replied, "I wanted to see what kind of person would do something like that." It ended up Mia had a history of manipulating people. She'd been engaged twice before, and both times the engagements broke up because she interfered with other people's relationships. Her mother explained that she'd always had this urge to save people, no matter what else she destroyed in the process. Claire started crying again. "I feel so stupid," she said. I said, "You're not stupid. You were vulnerable and she took advantage." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure that I believed it. Part of me still blamed her. We tried to talk about it all in the next few days, but something had snapped between us. It was not anger anymore. It was exhaustion. One night, I asked her, "Do you still want to get married?" She looked at me for a long time and then said, "I don't know." I nodded. "That's your answer." She started to protest, but I interrupted. "Claire, I won't marry someone who doesn't know." I called off the venue booking the next morning. She didn't argue. We just sat there silently, surrounded by plans that were now obsolete. It should have hurt more, but it didn't. It just felt empty. I got an email from Mia a couple of weeks later. I almost deleted it, but curiosity took over. She had said, "I know you probably hate me, but I never meant to hurt you." Claire was confused, and I was trying to help her see that maybe she wasn't ready. "You should thank me for saving you from a bad marriage." I read it twice and felt nothing but disgust. I didn't respond. I didn't. I forwarded it to Claire instead with a single sentence. "This is who you trusted." She didn't respond, and that was fine. There are certain things that do not need closure. 2 months have passed since. I finally moved out last week. Claire is holding on to the apartment until her lease expires. I rented a small apartment near the river. Quiet, clean, simple. Liam helped me move. We didn't talk much, but as he was going out the door, he said to me, "You'll be all right." Maybe I will. Some nights I still think about her. Not about how she hurt me, but about how she'd laugh when she burned toast or sang off key in the car. You can't just switch love off like a light. You just have to live with what remains. I'm attempting to. The weirdest part is that sometimes I still catch myself wishing to text her, to tell her some joke or something off the wall, and then I have to remind myself that she's not the person who'd want to hear it anymore. That's when it hits me. The hardest goodbyes aren't loud. They're quiet, stretched out over months of silence. 3 months after the breakup, life seemed to look normal outside, but I was still empty inside. Work helped a bit. I gained more clients, worked late nights building websites, and tried not to pay attention to the silence in my new apartment didn't bother me. It did. Every sound felt too booming, the sound of something missing. My brother Liam came to see me every other day or so with beer or leftovers from their dinner at home. He'd tell me, "You're getting there," and I'd smile, even when I didn't feel like it was true. One evening, digging around in old files on my computer, I stumbled upon a folder called Wedding. I was going to close it out without ever opening it, but curiosity won out and I opened it. There were photos of the venues, flower samples, playlists, even notes from Mia on guest list optimization. I stared at her notes for hours. It was strange the way that one could set all that down in writing when plotting against you behind your back. I closed the laptop and walked. Portland fall evenings are chilly, and city lights seem softer somehow. I walked past the park where Claire and I would walk ducks to feed. For the first time, I was not mad, but tired. That night, I got a text from a number I did not know. It read, "Owen, it's Mia. I know I shouldn't be texting, but please read." I came close to blocking her, but I didn't. She sent another text. "I lost everything because of what happened. Claire won't speak with me. Work at my workplace is hell." I know now I went too far, but I was acting in her defense. I didn't react. She called me the next day saying she wanted to meet up and apologize. I ignored that too. She showed up at my building 2 days after. I saw her on the lobby cam. She looked thinner, whiter, on the verge of desperation. I didn't let her in. Rather, I called the front desk and ordered them to have her depart. I no longer needed closure, but that left me asking something. What drives someone like Mia to do what she does? Was it jealousy, loneliness, or the thrill of control? Maybe all three. The next weekend, I went to Salem to visit my parents. They'd gotten half the story, but not all of it. My mom hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. My dad just said, "You learn from this, son." Everyone does. At dinner, my mom said something that stuck in my head. Sometimes people like Mia don't want to ruin you. They just can't bear not being the center of someone's universe. That made sense. Mia had always needed to be the center of attention, the one everyone relied on. Maybe being around Claire when she was happy made her feel replaced. I erased all the messages, photos, and reminders of that weekend when I got back over the weekend. Then when I came back, not because I disliked her, but because I wanted room for fresh memories. Just then, my friend Ethan invited me to hike with a hiking group. I hadn't done anything with other people in months, so I accepted. The group would gather on every Sunday morning. The first hike nearly killed me. I was in really bad shape, exhausted, but it was pleasant to test myself once again. There was this woman named Julia in the group, about my age, shy but happy. She had this calm way of speaking, like she'd seen things and learned not to rush anymore. We'd talk about work, random things, movies, none of that romantic, just normal. And it felt good, just being back to normal. In the weeks that followed, I was laughing more easily, sleeping better, and giving less thought to the past. One night, after a day of hiking, Julia and I sat at the trailhead drinking coffee from a thermos. She asked me if I'd ever been in love. I said yes once. She nodded and said, "Did it end badly?" I said, "Yeah, terrible." She didn't need details, and I was grateful for that. No sympathy, no curiosity, just polite understanding. Driving home, I noticed I had not mentioned Claire's name in almost a month. That was an improvement. But life has this way of testing you when you least expect it. A couple weeks passed, and Claire texted me out of nowhere. It said, "Hey, I heard you moved." I just had to apologize again. I looked at it for hours. Then she sent me another. "I realize I don't deserve to ask, but may we talk?" Once. I had no clue what to do. I called Liam. He said, "If you want peace, talk. If you want pain, go back." I laughed, but he was right. I agreed to meet her for a cup of coffee. When I entered the cafe, she was already there. She looked different, tired, thinner, but at ease. She smiled softly. "Hey," she said. I answered, "Hey." We spoke a while, fairly superficial. Her job, her family, friends we shared. And then she continued, "I wanted to let you know that I started seeing a therapist." I nodded. She added, "Not on your account, but on mine." I needed to understand why I believed her type more than the man I loved. I was quiet. She continued, "I know that I couldn't fix what was done, but I didn't want you to think that I didn't care." I looked at her and didn't feel angry anymore, but only sad about what we lost. I said to her, "I hope you find peace." She smiled. "Yours too." When we were rising to go, she touched my arm with her hand. "You were good to me, Owen. Sorry I wasn't aware." I said, "You were, just too late." And we were done. No sobs, no collapse. Just two people who used to love each other, finally going their separate ways. When I arrived home, I didn't feel burdened. I felt free. As if I'd come out of a fog I'd been under for months. That night, I texted Julia. I typed, "Thanks for being a good friend." She typed back, "Always. You're getting better, I can tell." Maybe she was. Getting better isn't abrupt. It's gradual still, like learning to breathe again after holding one's breath too long. 6 months after all that was said and done, I reached the age of 29. It was not an important birthday, but it felt like one in my life. I'd rented a small townhouse close to downtown, finally gotten new furniture, and hung up some of my own artwork. My brother came by with his wife and daughter to mark the occasion. They had brought a cake and a card that said, "To new beginnings." It was appropriate. I wasn't fully well, but neither was I shattered anymore. I still used to think about Claire every now and then, not painfully, but as part of a story that defined me. You can't erase someone who was your home at one time. You just figure out how to pop in on the memory without staying long. Work was consistent, and I'd started teaching part-time at the local community college, helping the design students build portfolios. I liked it. The energy of people starting over caught up with me. One evening after class, I strolled through a food truck festival in the city and saw Julia sitting at a picnic table eating tacos. She waved me over. "You vanished," she told me. I smiled. "Been busy pretending to have a social life." She smiled. "How's that going?" I said, "Badly." We talked for hours that night. She told me about her past, about a man she was engaged to that she caught cheating on her with a coworker at work. I told her about Claire, about Mia, how everything fell apart. She listened the whole time without interrupting. When I finished, she spoke, "You didn't deserve that, but perhaps it's better that it did happen. Now you see what peace really is." That hit me hard because she was speaking the truth. Peace isn't the silence or absence of suffering. It's when you no longer have to find out why someone hurt you. Julia and I saw each other more and more in the weeks that followed. It wasn't on purpose, it just happened. Dinners, hikes, late-night talks. She had this calm manner of existing, and I found myself noticing how different it felt to have someone around me who didn't keep score. We went for a walk one night to the same park where Claire and I used to walk, and I caught myself smiling truly. Not because I'd forgotten, but because I'd finally realized that some endings are simply rerouting. Later, I heard from a common friend that Mia had left Portland. Apparently, she'd been fired from her employment after another coworker had accused her of gossiping. No surprise at all. I didn't feel satisfaction, just some sort of pity. Some individuals destroy people because they cannot build themselves up. I hoped she'd get help, though I knew she'd never look for it. Some week or two after that, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Claire. It had a single sheet of paper that read, "I know we split up badly, but I wanted you to know that I'm okay. I'm moving to Chicago for a new job. I hope you're doing well too." I read it twice before I folded it back into the envelope. I remained there for a second, gazing through the window. I didn't cry, didn't feel regret, only a quiet acceptance that the story was finally finished. That weekend, Julia came over with takeout and wine. We sat on the couch and dined, and at one point she looked around my apartment and said, "You've made this place yours. It feels lived in." I smiled. "Got a while, yeah. Finally feels like home." She asked me, "Do you ever think about the past?" I said, "Sometimes, but not the same way." She simply nodded, as if she understood without my having to explain. That night, when she had left, I stood beside the balcony gazing out into the city lights. For the first time in almost a year, I didn't feel like I was waiting. No dangling conversations, no hidden messages, no specters to chase. Just me, standing there, breathing easy. I thought about what my dad had said months ago, that everyone learns from something that almost kills them. He was right. You don't become stronger by avoiding pain. You become stronger by surviving it and refusing to let it dictate your life. I discovered that I was grateful, not for what happened, but for what I gained from it. I was aware that trust wasn't blind faith. It's something you decide every day with people who are worth it. I learned that love is not rescuing, but it is respecting someone enough that you can leave them alone to be who they are and not be scared. And maybe most of all, I learned that some betrayals are blessings in disguise, because they open the door for something better to come in. The next day, I threw my old engagement ring, the one I never returned to the store, off the bridge into the river. It sank rapidly, sending ripples that faded in a few seconds. I did not do it out of anger. It was just time to be done with something that no longer belonged to me. On my way home, I couldn't help but consider how strange life is. A year ago, I was planning a wedding with a woman I thought I'd love forever, hoping in a friend who'd prove to be poison. Now, I was single, happy, and okay with that. Maybe even better off. Love doesn't necessarily finish the way you'd want it to, but it finishes as it must. And maybe that's enough. I have no clue what's going to become of me or Julia. I'm not rushing anything. I'm just taking one honest day at a time, and that makes me feel like I'm getting somewhere. If anything, I've learned that forgiveness isn't for the man who does you wrong. It's for you, so you can walk forward and not drag the past behind you. I still believe in love. I just believe in it differently now. Quieter, slower, rooted in honesty rather than illusion. Maybe someday I will fall over again, and if so, I will fall into it with wide eyes and unshaken heart. Undefined. Until then, though, I'll just keep building a life that is mine, not one to impress or prove to somebody.